Hi everyone, I'm Jane and I'm here today to speak about the Deathslinger. A lot of you actually asked me for some tips, tricks and other kind of suggestions, so here I am to speak about this really bad guy. The Deathslinger is a really controversial killer. He's actually hated a lot by the community because he can be really annoying to face, he can be really strong in the 1 versus 1, and I kinda feel it. But I still think it's really fun to play and he's a really high skill killer at the same time, so I wanted to share with you some of the tricks I learned or some of the ideas I have about him after 2.6k downed Wild Spirit survivors. The first topic I'm going to speak about is when to reload and when to not do it. Because I noticed that a lot of players actually immediately reload after a missed or a good shot. And I think this is not the optimal way to play him, because if you reload, especially without any add-on, it's like losing a ton of distance, and this can make your game a bit more complicated than it actually is. So I'll try to explain you when it's better to reload with two really short clips that in my opinion will make you think about your reloading strategy. In the first clip you can notice that I choose to let the chain break because there was the pallet and it was the best idea to actually injure the survivor. But I don't immediately go for reload, I prefer to just chase the survivor. So the survivor choose to go for the building because actually the long walls are the best counter to him, but they notice that they are not able to make it because I would still reach at them. Then I block them at the loop, I choose to shoot, I have my shot and I down them. Similar situation here, I choose to go for a shoot before reaching them, so I get my hit here and I don't immediately reload. I want to see where they choose to go before reloading. They didn't choose to go for that pallet because they know it's not a good pallet against him. They tried to go for the bus, but they wouldn't make it. So they had no way to make it. And now I'll speak about the add-ons for him, the best add-ons and the worst add-ons for the Deathslinger. In my opinion, the best add-ons, the suggested add-ons are the double cooldown after missed shot reduced, because actually when you go to miss a shot you almost have no cooldown and you're free to keep chasing the survivor. This is a really underestimated thing because actually, you know, as I said, I prefer to reload when they are blocked at a loop. In that way I don't lose distance, and if I miss a shot, because it can happen actually during a game, I don't lose a lot of distance because actually I keep having my momentum and walking. So this is why sometimes I say to people that double cooldown can be better than double reload. Of course, double reload is a really strong combo as well, because if they reach a really strong loop, it's better to have the shoot as soon as possible than actually giving them the time to reach the stronger side of the strong loop. So this is still a really nice combo, and as I said, it's not about what's better between the two things. I think these two are really strong. These two are actually some combos that fix some of your mistakes, so I still think that it's worth it to play with both of these. Another nice combo in my opinion is the double mangled add-ons, because this can be good to slow down the game, to keep them injured for a longer time, and these are really good. So if you want to not go for fast reload or for double cooldown, this can be a really good option as well. Then there are other add-ons. I would like to test more the movement add-ons, because this can be useful in some loops. I tested the double reeling and in my opinion, I didn't see a really good advantage in these, even if I have the feeling that this actually makes harder for survivor to reach a obstacle while you are reeling. But honestly, I made some tests in Kill Your Friend and I couldn't notice a really good advantage at running this. So I still prefer to run double cooldown or fast reload when I don't go for the double mangled add-ons. Another important Deathslinger skill is reading, because actually knowing how to reel makes the difference between having a shot or not. Just remember that sometimes it's better to not immediately reel or you'll push them out of a position useful for an attack. Now I want to speak a bit about the perks. I'll come back to say something more about two particular perks, but I want to start by debunking a myth: monitor and abuse. I see it as one of the most popular perks for the Deathslinger. I know it's really strong, I know it actually makes you a spoopy killer like Myers and other killers, because your terror radius is really tiny, it can be on you and you don't even notice it. But I think it's really overkill on him. I think it actually makes you stronger in one side of the killer, but it's something that you can still work around when you don't run it. The 24-meter terror radius is already fine in my opinion, and you can still do well without monitor and abuse. You're completely free to run it, especially if you plan to use the IE coin, the add-on that applies the exposed status for sharpshooter shots, so 15, 18 meters shots. And yeah, in that situation you can see it as worthy. But I repeat, I stopped using it a long time ago, and I can still have a lot of first hits. So I don't know. I still think it's a good perk on him, but it's not the most needed. Other good perks are Nurse's Calling, and I can assure you that you'll still be able to see survivors with it, even without monitor. So still consider to run it. Sloppy Butcher, because all your attacks are M1s, so you actually apply the status every time, but as I said before, you can do the same thing with the add-ons. And another really good perk, this is really one of the most popular, but at the same time one of the really strongest perk on him, is Save the Best for Last. It's a really amazing perk on him. It actually makes you losing less distance every time you have a M1 it. You can not lose stacks when you choose to break the chain on the obsession for the first health status, and it allows you to protect your goals or your hooks in an even stronger way. So yes, about Save the Best for Last, I think it's really worthy of a slot in your build. There are other two perks that are really great on him. One of these, in my opinion, is the must-have, and it's I'm All Ears. I'll show you later why I consider it the best Deathslinger perk. And then a really underrated perk on him is Unrelenting, and I'll explain you why you should consider it for your build. Now I'm going to speak about the shock. I wasn't sure to put this in this tips and tricks guide, but I think that it's actually worthy to spend some words about it. As you know, the shock is usually one of the safest loops for survivors, a bit less safe than usual against the Deathslinger, but even less than actually a lot of people think. You have to know that the shock is full of holes. There are like 5 or 6 of these, but you know, you can memorize all of these and Kill Your Friend to be ready for real games. Also, some of these holes are really useful, especially against survivors who try to camp the god pallet from the inside or to camp the window from the outside, waiting for a move by the Deathslinger. So even if you don't plan to play the Deathslinger, knowing all these holes is actually useful to avoid some kind of mistakes. Other kind of holes are really strong but really hard to get during a real game. And as a survivor, you almost can do anything against this, because these holes are so tiny that you can see what the slinger is trying to do, and you can plan to play around this, because if you do it and the Deathslinger is an average slinger, you only zoom yourself, you only lose time, and you are actually outplayed. So my suggestion is always try to master these shots as a slinger, because it can make the difference in a chase against a good survivor or a bad one. Now, I tested a few things with Unrelenting and without it, and here you can see why Unrelenting is a good perk on him. Without Unrelenting, you can't have some of the hardest shot with him, while with Unrelenting, even if you don't immediately have the shot, you can go for a normal and one immediately after it, because they have no way to escape from you. Yeah, Unrelenting actually works with the rifle when you choose to cancel the hit. While, as you can see, for example, in these two clips, the first time I had Unrelenting and I could immediately swing at her. The second time I didn't have Unrelenting and she's able to reach the pallet before I can actually have a normal M1 or I can reload. This is another thing I tried with the Deathslinger in the shack, and it's what I call the basement tech. I know that the tech thing is really popular nowadays, and you can see how you can have some really easy M1 after that you put them in the basement with a reeling. This only works with shacks with the basement inside, of course. And even in this situation, Unrelenting is a good choice to have this kind of advanced tricks. Eye's is another great perk for the Deathslinger actually. You can see how much good was in this case, because the survivor can go to the left or to the right. And actually here I just waited and I had a easier shot to end the chase a lot faster than usual. So you can already imagine how good it is in a situation like this. But it's not only about that. Eye's it's actually, in my opinion, the best perk on the slinger. Look at this, for example. You can see her walking around behind the wall, and then I have an easy shot because I actually have our reading. Even here, you know, the saloon is one of the hardest loop to manage for the slinger, and here I could at least get the first health status because I knew where he was going, so I could plan my shot. Remember that breaking the chain the first time is worth it as having a normal M1 after the first hit. So don't be afraid of letting the chain break the first time, because it's always a health status, so it's always worth it. This clip is a perfect example of how much grit this perk is on him. I could follow her movements without giving her any feedback and preparing one of the sickest shots you can have actually with him. It was a perfect situation where I could take the full value of I'm all ears. I think this is actually the best perk on him. You can imagine more common situations like fast walls in jungle gyms or fast walls in the shack, and allowing you to plan your shots without giving them any feedback, or to just know if you can go for the shot or you can go for a normal mind game. And you know, I think this is actually the best perk on him. I think I regret it if other Deathslingers will see this video, because I think that it will make him even more painful to face for survivors. I assure you that you have no idea how many times this perk alone actually allowed me to end some really hard chase in a few seconds because of the informations I could have from it. The last topic is probably the most important one for everyone who wants to become a superior Deathslinger, and it's map knowledge and knowledge of the hitboxes of the Harpoon and of the survivor. You have to know that the basic rule is actually if you can look at them, you can shoot. So every kind of all actually looks like it works, but just be careful because some maps are full of fake holes and you have to understand what holes actually work and what actually doesn't. For example, the closed windows in a map like Wretched Shop don't work for him. So even if the holes are really big and are really similar to the holes in the closed window of the shack, this actually don't work. But other shot like the Gas 7 one or the shot in tiles like the one in Yamaoka or the one in Ormond actually work. So pay attention to all this kind of situation and you can probably find a good spot for spicy shots that can actually help you at closing the chase really faster. At the end, remember that the hitboxes of the charter don't fully match with the model of the same one. So be careful if the Slinger is good at having these shots and if he is good at predicting your movement, because he can actually be rewarded and he can actually eat you after one of these. I think I actually share with you a lot of tips that are not known about him by the community. So I think I said everything I had to say, and I want to say thank you to all of you who dedicated your time at watching my guide. And if you want to see more gameplay about the Deathslinger or Survivor, of course, as Jane, you can follow me on the Jane Show on Twitch or on Twitter, Instagram, or joining my community. The links to these contacts are in the description of the video. Thank you so much for watching me, and I'll see you in the fall.